Matsubayashi Ryu karate, the creation of Master Shoshin Nagamine, is a distillation of the method he acquired in his youth from three of the greatest living karate masters of the period: Ankichi Arakaki, Chotoku Kyan, and Choki Motobu. It is a discrete art, dedicated to the improvement of the individual, and therefore the society in which he or she lives, through arduous and sincere training in karate over an extended period. Okinawan in origin, universal in aspect, it is today practiced around the world, uniting people of diverse nationality, faith and ethnicity in the common goals of health, happiness, self-assurance and, ultimately, enlightenment. Encompassing armed and unarmed methods, it is underpinned by the philosophy of Zen and the concept of the human mind being a microcosm of the universal macrocosm. According to legend, during his sojourn at the Shaolin Temple in the 6th century AD, the Zen monk Bodhidharma taught his disciples the 18-law hand boxing method. Ostensibly, this was to preserve their health, which might otherwise have been jeopardized by the seated meditation method he taught, and with which he will forever be identified. A delightful tale indeed, but one that has no basis in fact. Chinese martial arts developed over the millennia in response to the need for personal defense. They took many forms and were to be found the length and breadth of China. Some even made their way overseas via the trade routes that ran across the nation, even as far as the distant and remote Okinawan island chain to the east. On Okinawa, under the influence of the local culture, the imported Chinese arts underwent subtle changes. Go-Juryu and Uechi-Ryu, for example, remain very close to their Chinese roots. Other methods were blended with indigenous fighting arts to produce discrete styles, which were further refined by their adherents. In the towns of Shuri and Tomani, this process went on in secret for centuries and resulted in what we now refer to as Shorin Ryu karate. The practice of karate in general was a province of the aristocratic classes. As members of the ruling elite, their commercial and diplomatic duties brought them into contact with Chinese boxers with whom they would study. By the time that Okinawan tote, uchinari, or as we would now say, karate, became public in the early years of this century, it was distinctly Okinawan and received its patronage from the Okinawan educational system and, to a lesser degree, the police. The Okinawan aristocracy, once the guardians of karate, disappeared in the wake of the Meiji Restoration in mainland Japan and the conversion of Okinawa into a prefecture. Anko Itosu was born in 1831 in Gibo village, Okinawa, to a family of the aristocratic Kemoshi class. A student of classical literature and calligraphy in his youth, his education in karate began under Nagahama Chikudon Peichin. However, it is as the principal disciple of Bushi Matsumura, an expert in the indigenous art of te, who had also studied Chinese boxing in Fuchao, that he is best known. Itosu Sensei and his famous students were responsible for the introduction of karate as an activity for the common man. He was the architect of modern karate and his students its builders. Foremost among them were Chotoku Kyan, Kensuyabu, Hanashiro Chomo, Kenwa Mabuni, and Gichin Funakoshi. By 1903, the efforts of Itosu's group led to karate being introduced into the curriculum of the Jinjo Elementary School in Shuri, Okinawa. Prior to this, karate training had been a time-consuming and very personal business. Beginners were first taught Naihanchi kata individually and in great detail. However, the need for a less arduous preparatory exercise soon became apparent when students of mixed ability were instructed as a class in a school setting. To answer this need, Itosu Sensei developed the 5 Pinan kata, an achievement that in many ways marked the beginning of modern karate. These kata have served the needs of beginners of a number of styles from 1907 to the present. Shoshin Nagamine was born on July 15, 1907, in the village of Tomari, Okinawa. He took up the art of karate at the age of 17, following a childhood plagued by ill health. His first teacher, Chojin Kuba, was followed by Taro Shimabuku. Then both Shimabuku and Nagamine became students of the young maestro, Ankichi Arakaki, a student of Chotoku Kyan, as well as Shimpan Gusukuma, Chomo Hanashiro, and Choshin Shibana. Arakaki was a prodigious martial artist, as well as a talented dancer and calligrapher. Best known for his ability to kick fiercely with the tips of his toes, he instilled in his young student Nagamine a love of karate that would endure. Arakaki's scientific approach to training, conditioning, and body mechanics also greatly influenced Nagamine. Dead at the age of 31 on December 28, 1929, Aragaki Sensei is remembered as a man of great ability and diverse interests. In 1935, while a student at the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Academy, Shoshin Nagamine trained with Choki Motobu at his Hongo Daimachi dojo. The famous karate fighter was at that time in his 60s and still in his prime. Motobu, who had become famous in Japan, by easily beating a foreign boxer half his age in a challenge match, had made an intense study of combat techniques. He modified the classical karate he had acquired from various masters into a distinct style that was his own, and that echoed the methods of Chinese boxing. A question perhaps of form following function. With his arm guiding his body, and his stance strong and rooted, he would strike an opponent with a fearsome keikoken technique at such close range they were unable to respond effectively. Motobu sensei believed that correct fighting distance and positioning were of the utmost importance to the extent that they dictated the outcome of any confrontation. His emphasis on Naihanchi kata was well known, and he even used it to teach self-defensive measures to young women. Choki Motobu was a controversial figure. The son of an aristocrat, unfortunately his ability to speak standard Japanese gave others the impression of a person of low birth. At a time when tradition was everything, he broke new ground with his research into real combat techniques and his willingness to fight anyone openly. Criticized for his behavior by the more refined Gichin Funakoshi, the value of his work was, however, widely recognized by talented and influential Japanese fighters. Yasuhiro Konishi, the founder of Shindo Jinnen Ryu, admired him greatly and supported his work. And Motobu's young student, Tsuneyoshi, would go on to become the Japanese boxing legend Piston Horiguchi. Karate was becoming very popular on the mainland due to the work of Okinawan pioneers such as Gichin Funakoshi and Kenmon Nobune, and there was some concern that its future would be shaped more by university committees in Japan than experts at home in Okinawa. Therefore, in October 1936, a meeting of senior masters in Naha was convened to make their views known. Karate was now being written with the characters for empty hand rather than China hand, as had been the case in the past. Chojo Miyagi-sensei pointed out that what happened in Tokyo eventually spread all over the nation, and that they should therefore probably agree to the change. In the following year, the Okinawan Prefectural Karate-Do Promotional Society was formed by the island's most prominent masters. In 1940, at the request of Okinawa's governor, General Hayakawa, a committee was established to devise new kata that would be easier for beginners to learn. The committee consisted of experts from various styles. Miyagi Chojun, Ishihara Shochoku, Kamiya Jinsei, Shinzato Jinnan, Miyasato Koji, Togura Anbun, Kinjo Kensei, Kaian Shinne, and Nagamine Shoshin. The task assigned to the committee was the creation of two new kata for beginners that would not represent a particular style, but that would be uniquely Okinawan. Miyagi Chojun, then 52 years old, contributed Fukyugata ni, now known to Goju Ryu practitioners as Gekisai Dai Ichi. Nagamine Shoshin, just 33, developed the Fukyugata Ichi or promotional kata number 1. Both kata are still taught at Matsubayashi karate dojos around the world. The formation of this committee by the governor was significant as, until that time, all such groups had been privately convened and sponsored. Official patronage meant that karate had finally been recognized as part of the nation's unique cultural heritage. The jubilation of the karate community was short-lived. War came to Okinawa in increasing measure until the beginning of the end was played out around these tiny islands. It came with a rush of angry machines in the sky overhead, as the holocaust that followed in the wake of high explosive shells from an armada amassed in the deep blue water off its coral-strewn coast, as a spiteful swarm of bullets that sought human flesh to feed upon. When the islands fell silent, they were weighed down with a cargo of human misery and a burden of dead and dying. The messengers of death moved on to Nagasaki and Hiroshima for the final act in the awful drama that was World War II. When the Battle of Okinawa was over, little remained of Okinawan culture, save than what resided in the minds of its people. Following the most intense air and naval bombardment in history, Okinawa was a devastated nation occupied by a foreign power. During the war years and immediately afterwards, many famous karate masters died. Choki Motobu in 1944, followed by Hanashiro Chomo, Tokuda Anbun, Shinzato Jinnan, Matayoshi Shinko, and Chotoku Kyan in 1945. Kanbun Uechi of Pangai New Uechi Karate died in 1948, and Chojo Miyagi, the founder of Goju Ryu, passed away in 1953. The old order was changing, and the concept of karate for the masses, first proposed by Master Itosu, would soon be advanced still further. In 1953, Nagamine sensei opened a dojo in the Komoji district of Naha. His first dojo, the opening of which in 1942 was honored by a demonstration by Chotoku Kyan, was destroyed during the war. As the karate that developed on the mainland was university-based, the greatest emphasis was placed upon learning fundamental techniques and basic kata. This was considered more than enough for anyone to master during a 4-year stay in college. Weapons training, although apparent during the pioneering days of Japanese karate, soon died out in the college dojos. Students in their late teens and early 20s were much more interested in the new concept of karate competition, an activity that was viewed as an abomination by most classical Okinawan masters, than training with weapons they regarded as, at best, anachronisms. The war and the political separation that followed it served to highlight the philosophical divide between the traditionalists in Okinawa and the progressives in Tokyo. Okinawa was accused of looking backwards. Tokyo set its sights on the future, on expansion, on modernization, and on change. Even the father of Japanese karate, Gichin Funakoshi, had grave misgivings about karate competition before his death on April 26, 1957. As Teruo Okazaki remarked, Master Funakoshi was against the idea, saying that a tournament would only detract from the real meaning of karate-do. In Okinawa in general, and the dojo of Shoshin Nagamine in particular, the forces of change were resisted, and the karate of Ankichi Arakaki, Chotoku Kyan, and Choki Motobu effectively preserved. In 1956, Nagamine Sensei helped establish the Okinawan Karate-do Association and served as its vice president. In 1977, he founded the World Shorin Ryu Karate-do Association. Then in 1981, as its president, he reorganized the Okinawa Prefectural Karate-do Association and took it to membership of the All Japan Karate-do Association. His efforts to preserve and promote Karate-Do were recognized in the most appropriate way possible when the Order of the Rising Sun was bestowed upon him in 1982 by His Majesty Emperor Hirohito. Nagamine Sensei's ongoing research into the art of Karate-Do led him to the writings of classical swordsmen Miyamoto Musashi and Yamaoka Tesshu, and ultimately to Zen Buddhism as expressed in the practice of seated meditation, a discipline he engaged in enthusiastically until his death on November 2nd, 1997, at the age of 90 years. Nagamine Sensei's gift to us all is Shorin Ryu Karate. Through the turbulent years of the 20th century, through war and political chaos, he preserved the art, secure in the knowledge of its value to humanity and its importance to future generations. His work allows us to experience the wisdom of the ancient masters of karate and to benefit from it. In 1882, karate master Bushi Matsumura wrote that the way of Bu, or martial arts, forbids willful violence, governs the warrior, fortifies the people, fosters virtue, appeases the community, brings about general harmony, and encourages prosperity.
The Dragon Associates website features everything from fast-breaking news to a martial arts store, information on the latest videos to back issues of Dragon Times and Fighting Arts magazine. For information you can depend on from the best instructors and martial arts writers in the world, visit us on the World Wide Web at www.dragon-tsunami.org. Dragon Associates since 1968. Tsunami martial arts videos are recognized worldwide as the very finest of their kind. Tsunami's dedicated production team has captured, in their most perfect form, the classical schools of karate. In doing so, they have produced a historical resource of enormous value to this and future generations. The best instructors, the best photography and sound, the best writing and research. Tsunami, the best martial arts videos in the world.